Another big matchup this week, this time in Suburban 1 with Pennridge and North Penn. We'll dig deep into that matchup and more next here on Varsity Voice presented by SFBN. Catholic League and the team that everybody's talking about. One final thought, let's get a big, bold prediction. Welcome to another edition of Varsity Voice presented by SFBN. I'm your host, Ari Bluestein, and Mike, we're really getting into the thick of things here in high school football, and I want to start in the city and the public league. Now, everybody knows Imhotep, they're probably the best team in the pub, but they're 4A. There's still a champion to be had in 5A or 6A in the pub. We might find out a little bit more about who that can be with the Central Frankfort game this weekend.
Oh, I think we're going to find out a lot about who that could be this week between Frankfort and Central. I'm really excited for this game because these are both traditional powers in the public league who have struggled as of late. Well, they're both on their way back. Frankfort had a couple of tough early season games against teams from District 1. They've won 2 straight. And on the other side for Central, Colin Washington, their outstanding receiver. I think he's going to be the key to this game. If Frankfort can slow down Colin Washington, then you can slow down Central.
Yeah, I think if you look at it on the other side, you have Frankfort quarterback Mike Morrell with his top target, Ezekiel Lopez. Morrell has basically played mistake-free football this year. 9 touchdowns, no interceptions. So it'll be up to Central's defense and Blake Schwartz, who is the leader of that team, the linebacker. We shall see what happens, but it should be a very interesting game in the pub this week. That's on Friday afternoon. In the Chestmont, when you think of the Chestmont, you think of the 2 Downingtowns and Coatesville. But we've got one of those matchups this week with Downingtown West at Coatesville. And you look at the records, Whippets 1-3, the Raiders 3-1. But still, I think it's going to be a pretty good game.
I think it's going to be a very good game, and I think this 1-3 Downingtown West start is kind of deceiving for this reason. They've had an unbelievably tough schedule. If you look, they've already played Neshaminy, they've already played Perkiomen Valley, and we talked about how they were trailing Perkiomen Valley 42-14 in that game before they came all the way back. 42-41, they lost. Kyle Geiser, their quarterback, is outstanding. He can throw the ball all over the yard, and Mike Riddick provides them a good option in the backfield as well. On the other side for Coatesville, they still have a couple of the young brothers left. They have Avery and they have Aaron. They don't have Jordan anymore. It's now Ricky Ortega, who's a freshman. It's going to be interesting to see how Ricky reacts in his first real big conference game with a good team coming in.
Yeah, definitely a good team. Coatesville's schedule has been a little bit weak to start the year, but they've taken care of business when they've needed to. So we'll see how they do against the Whippets on Friday night. Now in South Jersey, you don't have those big matchups, Timber Creek, Cherokee, Shawnee, any of those type of matchups this week. But you do have a very interesting one with Paul VI at Delsea. Now Delsea, 0-2 to start the year. Remember, they're the defending Group 3 champs. Well, they lost to Timber Creek, the defending Group 4 champs, and last week lost to Cedar Creek from down the shore, the Group 2 champs. So what do you think? Will the Crusaders really start 0-3?
They can't afford to if they want to go back to those Group 3 playoffs. And Paul VI provides an interesting opponent for them because we don't really know what to make of them. They're 1-1 on the season. They have a loss against Burlington Township from Central Jersey, who's fine. They're a playoff team, but they're not really going to set the world on fire in the playoffs, I think. Delsea, they just simply can't afford 0-3. This is a must-win game, and with their backs against the wall, it's going to be interesting to see how they react.
Yeah, we'll see how quarterback Jesse Milzer reacts and gets his team to get that first victory of the year. And Paul VI, you're right, we really don't know what to make of them. They've got a first-year head coach, so we'll see how they do in this game. This is really their first true test of the season. Now, we're talking about a lot of league games. We don't really see many good non-league matchups at this point in the year, but we've got one. Penn Charter at Interborough. Now, Interborough, they're 4-0, got a very good running back in Chris Thomas, and they're playing a pretty good team in the Quakers from the Interac.
Well, this is an interesting rest versus rust type of game because Penn Charter's only 1-0 on this season. They played down the shore in the beginning of September. They haven't played since then because one game got canceled due to heat, and then last week they had a scheduled bye. Well, Interborough is already in the flow of their season. They're 4-0. The question is, are they banged up or are they ready to go? Whereas Penn Charter, it's going to be rest versus rust. who comes out, who looks strong in this game. Because let's say it takes Penn Charter to find their footing a little bit. They could be down 14, 21 points early on.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is a very interesting dynamic with the schedule, but tell you what, the Penn Charter Quakers, they've got a very good quarterback. Nico Nakowski, 4-year starter under center, and of course they have a lot more talent on that team as well. So an interesting matchup, and of course the game of the week, North Penn and Pennridge, but we will get to that a little bit later in the program. More next here on Varsity Voice, presented by SFBN.
Hi, I'm Tommy Greene, former pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies. When I was in high school, it was very important to me to show scouts what I could do. My friends at Payroll Service Solutions are huge supporters of high school sports and the Sports Fan Base Network. If you're a small to medium-sized business in need of a payroll company, contact Payroll Service Solutions. Not only will they take care of you, they will continue to support the community. For more information, contact Payroll Service Solutions at 215-624-0922 or 866-PAY-EASY.
Welcome back to Varsity Voice. Joining us now is Janie Mershon of Think First Sports. Janie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ari. It's great to be here.
So tell us, what is Think First Sports?
Think First Sports is a business that I founded with the purpose of promoting youth sports careers and making them successful. So I present 3 different programs. The first is called Thinking Like an Athlete. The second is Communication for Competitors. And the last program is Building Your Own Playbook. All 3 of those programs are designed for youth sports career success. I also do one-on-one coaching. That's where I really build the plan.
Now you say youth sports career. What in your mind, what made you come up with kind of that term based on the landscape of youth and high school sports at this current time?
Well, good question, because what I found out is there are 40 million kids in the United States of America today that are involved in youth sports. So it's no longer, if you're going to play sports or not, because most kids are. 70% of high school students are involved either in school or out of school in some kind of organized sport. The money being invested by parents across America is now in the billions.
Wow, that's really a lot. Now, what is your background with youth and high school sports?
Well, I got involved with sports when I was 13 and became a cheerleader. I was hooked, and I actually cheered through college, Division I college. I traveled around the world with it. Sports is a great way to meet people and see the world. I cheered in the very first nationally televised basketball game in Tokyo, Japan.
Wow.
So it was quite an experience. I also have 3 children who've all played college sports. My son was a quarterback. My daughter is now playing professional basketball in Europe. And my son was a nationally ranked swimmer and swam in a top 20 program. So for the last 26 years, I've been following them in the 11 different sports they've been involved with.
Well, obviously you have some experience with it, you have some background, but why now? Why did you start Think First Sports?
Because there is a real missing piece in youth athletics. And so I'm an attorney. I also have 2 degrees in psychology. All of those degrees lend themselves to problem solving. And so when I watch games, I kind of watch a little differently. I watch from the strategy as to whether there's a motion offense or not, but I also watch about what the actual youth athlete is doing and how they're incorporating themselves into the game in the process. So there are some strategies that can be easily employed, easy to learn, they need practice, that can elevate a youth sports career immediately. I, for a short time, worked for a company launched by Dr. Martin Seligman from Penn, who's known as the father of positive psychology. He has techniques that have been proven through research to be very effective. They're very easy to learn, as I said, and they can absolutely turn a negative experience into a fantastic experience.
Well, what are some of the examples maybe of some of the techniques, or what's the formula maybe to having a successful youth sports career, if you can just give an example?
Sure. Well, I like to quote Yogi Berra, who was one of the greatest baseball players of all times. He had a very famous saying that he said, performance was 90% mental and the other half was physical. So basically, I completely agree with that. I think it does start in the mind. No longer is a jock, known as a dumb jock. Athletics is actually a form of genius, and you can think your way to success. And another prime example of that is Michael Phelps, diagnosed with ADD, the most decorated Olympian of all times, and he often says that his performance and his preparation starts all in the mind. So that's the first thing I start with. I then teach communication, and then how to build your own strategic plan, your own playbook. So many kids are playing sports today, and their parents just drop them off and hope everything falls into place. And then if it's not successful, decide maybe they didn't have talent, when that is definitely not the case. Even somebody that doesn't have natural talent can have an exciting, successful youth sports career.
Well, we have a lot of parents and coaches and student athletes tuning in. So how can they find out more information about you and Think First Sports?
Well, they can contact me at Janie, Jan as in Nancy, IE, at thinkfirstsports.com, www.thinkfirstsports.com. I'm on Facebook at Think First Sports and Twitter.
Well, that all sounds great. I mean, the program sounds great. Thank you so much for coming on the show and telling us about it, and best of luck with it.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
We'll be back with more here on Varsity Voice, presented by SFBN.
Like the late, great Bear Bryant says, it's not the will to win that counts. Everybody has that. It's the will to prepare to win that counts. One way you can do that is by using your mind. Know the rules of the game. Study every day. Know the playbook and strategies better than any other player on the field. And during game time, think about what football is really all about. Throw, catch, run, block, and tackle. If you want to learn how to use your mind for great success, check out my website.
Hi, I'm Marty Bystrom, former pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies. In my experience in Major League Baseball, I know how important it is for high school athletes to gain exposure. My friends at Payroll Service Solutions are huge supporters of high school sports and the Sports Fan Base Network. If you are a small to medium-sized business in need of a payroll company, contact Payroll Service Solutions. Not only will they take care of you, they will continue to support the community. For more information, contact Payroll Service Solutions at 215-624-0922 or 866-PAY-EASY.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Bill's Sports Cards and Memorabilia. Check out the Philly Celebration Show on October 8th at the Crown Plaza on Street Road in Bensalem to meet some of the Phillies greats from the 80s and 90s. The event is free admission, so don't miss it. Go to www.billsportsmemorabilia.com for more information.
Welcome back to Varsity Voice. We have a huge matchup in Suburban 1 this week with Pennridge and North Penn. And for more, we now bring in the North Penn Knights head coach, Dick Beck. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Your quarterback, Reese, has just been stellar so far this year. Talk about his play.
I think he's been, outstanding. I think he's throwing with a lot of consistency, high percentage passes. He's thrown for 9 touchdowns in 4 games. He hasn't played in the second half in the last 2 where we had to throw the ball. So, I think production-wise, he's, really at the top of his game.
Well, he's been able to throw to wide receiver Ricky Johns, who's committed to West Virginia. How important is he to your team?
Well, Ricky, when we line him up at wide receiver, the defense has to tilt coverage and play safety over the top of him, because if not, I think, we can really go over the top. So I think he kind of opens things up for the rest of the guys, whether it's running the ball with Nick Dillon or it's throwing to the opposite side of the field with Jake Hubler and Justice Henley.
You guys have really been phenomenal, allowing only 51 points in total this year. 20 of those were in the fourth quarter to CB West last week. Talk about your defense and who the standout stars have been.
Well, Owen Thomas and Dan Drop of our inside linebackers, they're both the leaders when it comes to tackles. They make everything happen inside. Ricky Johns is an outstanding linebacker, strong safety. Our number 1 corner has been Justice Henley. He's had an outstanding season. Up front, Nick Vasker is probably our best defensive lineman, and we're a little bit undersized, but the kids play hard, and they create havoc, and we've had a lot of success with them up front so far.
Well, this game against Pennridge on Friday night is probably the biggest of the year so far, and maybe for your entire season. How are you going to get your team ready?
We're going to prepare like we do for every game. Pennridge is a huge rival, so I don't think we have to worry about any big speeches pregame or anything like that. I think we, kind of prepare like we usually do, and I think it's going to be a great one on Friday night.
Head coach of the North Penn Knights, Dick Beck, thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, thanks.
Charlotte Reese here at Pennridge High School with head football coach Jeff Hollenbach. Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about Jagger Hartshorn?
Jagger has had just a terrific year for us so far. These first 4 games, putting up huge numbers, lots of touchdowns, lots of passing yards, and he's doing a great job running the football.
And I know you guys had a tough beginning of the season.
We did. Week 1 was fine. We won that game. Weeks 2 and 3 were a lot more of a struggle, and I hope we can learn, what we need to learn from those games. We had a great win against Souderton this past week. Hopefully the momentum carries into this week.
Yeah, a big matchup this week with North Penn.
North Penn is always good year in and year out. That's certainly true this year again. We're looking for a great game on Friday night.
Thanks, Coach. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, we've heard from North Penn coach Dick Beck. Now let's bring in the analyst to break down this matchup. Jen Wielgus from Game On joins us. Jen, thanks so much for a couple minutes. We appreciate it.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We have talked quite a bit about quarterback Jagger Hartshorn for Pennridge. How do you think he matches up against this North Penn defense?
We have talked a lot about Jagger, and deservedly so. He's a great athlete. But I don't think anybody stacks up against this North Penn defense. North Penn is playing as good on that side of the ball as they have in years. In fact, North Penn's only allowed 51 points. That's the least number of points they've allowed through 4 games since 2010 when they made the state semifinals. 12 points per game. This is a unit that's just hard to get through right now.
Since the win against LaSalle, North Penn hasn't really been tested. No real strong opponents. Do you think that'll have an effect on them this week?
Absolutely not, and I have 2 words for you: Dick Beck. He is the best coach in the area, bar none, and he's going to have these guys prepared for any opponent, no matter who it is.
So looking at what Pennridge has done this year, in their 2 big games, they haven't really been able to slow down powerful offenses. How do they slow down Reese in this potent North Penn attack?
Well, give Pennridge credit for playing a tough non-league schedule. I mean, Perk Valley and Neshaminy are no slouch. And remember, Pennridge, I mean, they missed the playoffs by decimal points last season, and they're going to, maybe struggle to get in this year because of the tough schedule that they play. But you know what? This is going to be another really tough assignment. And I mean, it's just not Reese. He's got a bunch of weapons. Ricky Johns, Justice Henley, Nick Dillon. I mean, North Penn is a stacked team. So good luck, Pennridge.
All right, we know about the quarterbacks, but who are the X factors in this week's matchup?
Well, let's start with Pennridge because I've been, thumping the drum for North Penn so far. Jagger Hartshorn, he can do anything. He can run, he can throw, he even caught a touchdown pass against Souderton last week. But they've got a couple really nice receivers, Anthony Kelly, Ryan Cuthbert, and I gotta give some love to Pennridge's kicker, Matt Maurer. He is one of the best in the area. And then like I mentioned for North Penn, Nick Dillon, the running back, Justice Henley, Ricky Johns, who's going to West Virginia, great wide receiver. And then North Penn's defense is just, hard to get through, as I said before.
What are the keys to the game for North Penn?
Just be North Penn. I mean, I said, Dick Beck will have them prepared, but just don't get full of yourself. Just, stay the course. And I really think that they're going to win the game.
And for Pennridge?
Well, I mean, they're going to have to play out of their minds. I mean, I'm not saying Pennridge doesn't have a chance. They've got athletes, they've got numbers, they've got size. They've got great special teams, as I said, a great kicker. Play a perfect game, basically.
All right, finally, we're going to hold you to this one. What's your prediction for the game?
North Penn 40-20.
All right, Jen, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it as always.
No problem. Thanks a lot.
All right, now let's take a look at our upcoming schedule here on SFBN.
All right, it's time to make our picks. And Mike, we'll start off in the Philadelphia Public League, Central at Frankfurt.
How dare you not mention that I went 5-0 last week? You always love to make fun of me when I'm bad, and finally I'm good, and you don't even mention it. So we're not starting anywhere before we talk about that I'm 5-0. But yes, let's talk about Central and Frankfurt. This is going to be a great game. I'm really excited about this game because we said two powers that are back, and Frankfurt honestly probably should have beaten Pennsbury in week one. They had a long touchdown that would have put them in front in the last couple of minutes, called back on a holding penalty. I like Frankfurt in this game.
Well, speaking of your 5-0, I'm going to steal from you a little bit. I'm going to say Frankfurt, they were battle tested. I like the Pioneers in this game. Central, very talented, but I think Frankfurt gets the win. They're at home Friday afternoon. They are in their comfort zone. Okay, Chestmont, Downingtown West at Coatesville.
I'm going to go with the Whippets in this one for this reason. As we said, they had a tough schedule early on in the year. But I like their quarterback, Kyle Geiser. He can throw the football all over the yard. And I don't think Coatesville is there quite yet. If you just look at it from a talent perspective, I like Downingtown West more.
Okay, now I'm going the opposite. I'm going against the battle-tested team, and I'm going with Coatesville simply because of the young brothers. I just think they are so talented. You've got the one running the ball, and you've got the one catching the ball. I know it's a young quarterback, but I think Matt Ortega will find a way to get Coatesville to the win in this one. Okay, South Jersey matchup, Paul VI at Delsea.
Delsea has to win. They don't have a choice. Delsea has to come out. They have to play strong in this game. They have to be good. I think they have the talent to do so, and I think in a must-win situation, they're going to come through in a big spot.
Well, Delsea didn't come through for me against Timber Creek, but I'm going to stick with the Crusaders. They're talented. Paul VI, again, we don't really know what to make of them. They're a good squad, but a first-year head coach. Again, must-win situation. I like Delsea in this one. Okay, our non-league matchup this week, Penn Charter at Interborough.
Usually, I love experience. I love teams that are tested. I love big games. I'm going to go with Penn Charter in this game because I think they're simply more talented. Even though they haven't played enough games, I think rest is going to help them, not hurt them, and I think they look strong this week.
I like that pick as well. I'm going to go with Penn Charter in this one. I love Nico Natkowski as the quarterback for the Quakers. And yeah, only one game so far, but you know they've been practicing. They've got a beautiful new turf field at their school. I think Penn Charter wins this one against Interborough. Okay, the game of the week, Pennridge and North Penn. Who you got?
I'm going to go with North Penn in this game because, and I might end up being the bulletin board material for Pennridge. I think we overrated them early in the season. I think as we watch them play, they haven't really blown us away like we thought that they would. The loss against Neshaminy, the loss against Perk Valley, I think those things matter. And I think that North Penn, battle-tested, game-tested, all the tests that you want to throw out there, this team has passed them with flying colors. I like North Penn.
Well, you look at Pennridge, and obviously you look at Hartshorn. He is the main guy, but North Penn's defense, just too good. And they have played really well. Coach Dick Beck will have this team ready, tough to win on their home stadium at Crawford. I think North Penn wins this game. So I'm kind of riding your hot streak here. I agreed with most of your picks here this week.
I don't blame you. I've been pretty good. I mean, I was 1-4 week 1, but let's not talk about that. Let's talk about 5-0.
All right, Mike, thanks so much for being here today. Appreciate
My pleasure.
it. Check out our highlight of the week.
The highlight of the week is brought to you by ProVantage Insurance and Financial Services. With over 40 years of experience, ProVantage will work closely with you to find the best coverage for your auto, health, life, homeowners, and business insurance. ProVantage puts clients first, and they'll do what it takes to ensure your future through the proper protection. We welcome the opportunity to add you to our family.
Oh, between the hash marks.
Between the hash marks.
I'm looking at the 50.
No. Right between the hash marks.
3rd and 11 from the 19-yard line for Wissahick. It's going to be a wide receiver screen.
Yep.
Cutting it up. He's got some room. Going to the outside. Look out.
It's a foot race.
Johnson off to the races. Can he be caught? And he is. Is he in?
I think it's a touchdown.
Touchdown! Marlon Johnson takes the wide receiver.
Select video equipment for Varsity Voice has been provided by DMP Video. DMP Video. You provide the moment, we'll capture the memories. For more information about our videography services, please go to our website at www.dmpvid.com. The Sports Fan Base Network, this area's leader in high school sports broadcasting, is continually bringing you the most in-depth coverage. Join us for Varsity Voice every Thursday on TCN and CSN, where we'll have interviews with players, coaches, writers, and more, plus analysis, highlights, and a variety of features on major topics in the Delaware Valley high school sports community. Tune in every Thursday at 6 p.m. on TCN and 11:30 on CSN for the best and only high school sports show around, Varsity Voice, presented by SFBN.